Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga show brought to you by Over the Bar. Myself and Mark checking in for a Thursday evening. Obviously, we're back with a Bundesliga fantasy football show, but we are down our main man. So there's no Runa this evening to kind of guide you all through the fantasy football tips and questions. But me and Mark are here. We're ready with Runa's tips. We've got all the premium budget and mid-price picks ready to go for your defenders, midfielders, and strikers. We'll answer as many questions as we can do. Unfortunately, Runa is away. If he can pop into the chat, I think he will do at times, but obviously we'll do what we can. Fire them in anyway. I'm not doing too bad, actually, in fairness, basically by copying Runa. So we'll answer your questions anyway. And if you want to take our word for it, by all means do that. Before we get into things, we're just going to talk a little bit, spend a few minutes on Pokal review and just kind of chatting through the results. Obviously, the big OTB derby as well between myself and Mark's teams. And at the end, if we've got time, we'll spin through some match week 27 predictions as well for you all. So hope you can tune in, enjoy the show. Obviously, just before we get started, please do smash a like on the video for obviously our efforts this evening. Comment along as obviously as we've already said. If you want to save your questions for after once the show has gone live, I'm sure Runa again will do his best to get to the questions. Obviously, there's no Friday night game either, so there's a little bit of extra time for you to ponder your questions. So think as much as you can do. Add them in now or afterwards. That's absolutely fine. And of course, press the red button to subscribe to the channel. Right then, just very quickly, let's just get into Pokal thoughts and feelings. Obviously, we saw, when we were live on Tuesday, Mark, we were watching or keeping an eye on Freiburg Bayern when they went 1-0 up Bayern. I think we probably thought this would be a fairly, not an easy game for them because Freiburg are a fine side. But what a comeback and drama at the end to see them through to another semi-final and a chance for them to go back-to-back in terms of going to finals 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean, that was amazing, wasn't it, really? I mean, as you mentioned early on, it was all Bayern, obviously, Upamecano getting that opening goal. But I think what kicked Freiburg into action, really, was that Höfler strike. I mean, what a strike that was from 30 yards. Really, really crisp strike, excellent midfielder for Freiburg, mainstay in their team. And after that, I thought they were superb, basically. That goal, they needed that because they were getting outplayed a little bit at that point. Brilliant after that. And then obviously, it was a clear penalty for me. I don't know what Musiala's doing. Obviously a great player for Bayern Munich, but he just gets in his body mixed up, doesn't he? And it was almost like a double handball, really, wasn't it? He had both hands clearly blocking the strike, and great bottle from Hurler as well to put it away. I mean, to me, when he first struck it, it looked as though he was going into row Z. It went that high. And it just kind of crept underneath. It looked like a great penalty in the end because it was unsavable basically by the keeper. But I mean, if that was another, half meter higher, it would have been a case of, heartbreak for Freiburg potentially. But great bottle, brilliant defensive performance. And, Christian Streichsman are going to be contenders again for the Pokal.
This is very true. Obviously, big win for Frankfurt getting themselves past Union. We spoke about that whilst we were live on Tuesday. So obviously, Kolo Muani assisted by Goetze a few times, so good for them. And then obviously the next day we had the over-the-bar derby, so Nuremberg versus Stuttgart. Unfortunately, Mark, you weren't able to get tickets, were you? Because it sold out rapid, and I wasn't able to get out to Germany anyway due to work. So we both had to watch it subsequently, and yeah, it was a tight affair. But I think Stuttgart had the better of it just about. Two sides probably not and particularly enjoying the best of seasons. But it was a close match. Your keeper, Mark, Findal, I forget it's a double barrel surname, isn't it? He had a really good game in net, actually. And I think just at the end, the changes really told the difference, especially when Guirassy came on for Luca Pfeiffer.
Yeah, definitely. I think I mentioned to you just before the show, Rory, that I think it was the subs that eventually turned the game. Early on, I thought Nuremberg started quite well with the likes of Quadwo, Duar, causing a few problems down the side. Lino Tempelmann as well, probably Nuremberg's best player, was causing a few problems on loan from Freiburg, but just wasn't to be. It's just same old Nuremberg. They don't score goals. I would have started Daferner as the big target man. He's not had a very good season, the centre forward, but I would have started him to kind of rough up Mavropanos a little bit more. But I thought it was too comfortable for Freiburg, for Stuttgart's defence, who obviously have had a torrid time in recent weeks, conceding quite a lot of goals. It's a case of an opportunity blown for Nuremberg for me, because, we got the best possible draw basically at home again. Any other team would have been smashed, I'll be honest with you, especially away from home against the likes of Bayern, Leipzig, Dortmund, Freiburg, Union, Frankfurt. We had a chance of winning this tie, but I'm disappointed with the performance, but fair play to Stuttgart. I think they deserve to win. I didn't see enough in Stuttgart to make me think they can stay up, in truth, or go maybe any further in the semi-finals, but the draw is weaker than expected for the semis. No Bayern, no Dortmund, who were both humbled, as we mentioned. And, a home draw against Freiburg or maybe even Frankfurt, and who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed. I'd take, but I mean, home against Frankfurt, I guess, is maybe a kindest one, but playing against Kolo Muani is far from ideal as well. Anyway, so exciting Pokal lineup. Nice to have some different teams in there. I'm sure many are neutral, or any Bundesliga fan would rather see any of those three teams win it, apart from Leipzig, who completely outplayed Dortmund again. Really worrying for Dortmund, I would say. Two big matches again, kind of thrown away, and they just didn't turn up, really, did they? So slightly worrying. We'll see if they can bounce back. But anyway, we'll get into the main bulk of tonight's show, which of course is fantasy football. So what we'll do is we will get our defenders on screen here. Mark, if you want to kind of talk us through Runa's picks, and then we'll kind of elaborate as much as we can as to why Runa would have picked them, and I'll keep up on screen as well, so you can all see on the website who you should be picking.
Definitely, yeah. So the budget pick for the defenders is Anthony Kachi of Mainz. Obviously, the fullback had a really good season this year. Obviously, Mainz, one of the form teams in the Bundesliga after that amazing 3-0 win in Leipzig last time out. They've got a relatively favourable fixture at home against off-form Werder Bremen, which I guess is one of the reasons why Runa's gone for him. He's not been picked by any team, so he's a 0%er. So, if you get him in your team, you're going to get potentially bonus points ahead of people who didn't pick him. He's also discounted, as you can see on your screen, from usual 7 million down to 6.3 million. So that is something, his overall points aren't massive. He's only got 99 points for the season, but he hasn't played every game. He's been a player that's kind of come in and out of the team, but he started the last 2 or 3 games. So you'd imagine him to start this game against Bremen as well. Mainz quite big favourites to win this game at home as they continue their European push. Then, the mid-price pick is Pavel Kaderabek from Hoffenheim. So, again, Hoffenheim not had the greatest seasons, have they? But they have won the last 2 games back-to-back. Again, another player that's been in and out of the season, in truth, for long periods. And a player that's highly rated, the fullback for Hoffenheim, gets forward, gets a lot of crosses in, historically creates a lot of chances. Not so much this season, but I would imagine the fact that Hoffenheim have improved the form and the fact that they host Schalke this weekend, which again is a very winnable fixture for the side from Baden-Württemberg. Again, a 0%er as well. So, he's the kind of guy that if you put him in your team, you could end up making points on some of the competitors as well, as not many people have him in their teams. Then, obviously the premium pick is Borna Souza, actually. So obviously one of the best fullbacks in the league, and let's be honest, one of Stuttgart's only top-level players in truth. Always a danger, especially off set plays. Again, even this season, he's got 216 points, which is pretty incredible, really, considering the fact that Stuttgart have been so poor for long periods. Again, I guess the fact that it's a winnable fixture, although, Bochum away, a Bochum side on form, but you would expect Stuttgart to at least create chances in this game, which is where Borna Souza could potentially pick up points. He is in about 6% of the teams, and you can get him for 13.4 million, which is a relatively decent price for a player that so consistently picks up points. Again, I guess there is a potential for a clean sheet as well, where you could get bonus points too. I mean, Stuttgart don't keep many clean sheets at all, do they? But I mean, against Bochum is probably one of the better chances of keeping a clean sheet, or at least keeping the score down anyway. So yeah, they're your defensive picks for this week, obviously from Runa.
Yeah, absolutely. Fire in any defender questions that you might have for myself and Mark, and we'll try and get through them. Yeah, I mean, Sousa makes sense, doesn't it, as well? Potentially with Guirassy coming back into the starting 11, you'd imagine from obviously from the Pokal match, he got off the bench. Sousa being able to link up with with him or Silas, definitely means that created chances, possible assists, definitely points up for grabs for Bjorn Sousa. Doesn't look like there's any defender questions at the moment. There is one in regards to strikers, but we will come to that one. Or having just said that, question has just come in. So it is to keep or sell Visor. So I mean, Mark, off the top of my head, and I know you maybe described Werder as being almost on the beach on Tuesday. They're a side that have impressed so much this season, but just of late, maybe haven't impressed as much. And Visor's one of their key players. So away to Mainz, it's not an impossible matchup, is it really? So I'd be erring on the side of keeping Visor, but there's probably other options out there, the likes of Sousa, Kadar, Beck as well, that maybe are better picks than Visor this match week.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually got Visor in my team, and I've had him in for a long period. Early on in the season, he was like a points god, basically. He was my captain most weeks, to be honest with you, and he was getting 15 plus up to 20 points every week without even the captain on his name. So, he's clearly a player that has the potential to get a lot of points, but I'm going to be honest with you, he's not really got many points at all in recent weeks. And as you can see, 192 points overall. But I would imagine the vast majority of them probably came in the Hinrunde, in truth. He has had an injury in recent weeks too, but he has come back into the side. And as I mentioned, I'm just not feeling Werder at all at the moment. I think they've had a good season overall. They're going to stay up comfortably, but they're really kind of struggling home, I'm going to be honest. So, he is a budget option. He's only 5.2 million, but I wouldn't be expecting too much from Werder in this game, to be honest.
Yeah, owned by a third of fantasy football managers as well. So if you're looking for differential options, definitely the three that we've already talked about, because they're low in terms of owner percentages. But at the same time, he is obviously a safe pair of hands, Visor for sure. Okay, Brill. So any more defender questions, we can come back to them. So pop them in the chat. Not a problem. We shall come back to them. In the meantime, let's move on to our midfielders, which are now going below screen. So Mark, you can talk. I'll start talking us through the midfielders as I get them up on screen as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, the budget pick is Felix Nemecha, who's had a really good breakout season, really, for Wolfsburg. Got a few goals in the early parts of the Rückrunde as well in winter. A player who wasn't really expected to do much at all. And as you can see, his points last season only 23 compared to this season 113 already. So you can see that the guy has had a lot more influence this season. A player who Niko Kovac really seems to favour, and when he's fit, he does start most of the games nowadays. The young man signed from Man City a couple of years ago. Gets forward. He's kind of a box-to-box midfielder, so he does a bit of the tackling, he can get a few goals, assists. He's almost like a kind of low-budget Bellingham, really, in some ways, I think, Felix Nemecha. A player with a lot of potential who could even be as good as Bellingham in the future. But yeah, definitely a player that, as you can see, only 3% have him in the team, but he has definitely impressed this season and could be worth sticking in there. Kevin Stöger from Bochum as well, a player who, has had a really good season when he's been fit, which he hasn't always been fit. But, as you can see, 147 points for Bochum is a really good turnout. And, he's had a few. The problem is with Stöger for me is a little bit hit and miss. He has some very good games where he can get an assist and a goal. but other games where he just goes completely AWOL, basically. That's the problem with him. But he's been on form recently. He was really, really one of the key players in this little run that Bochum have put together of 3 games unbeaten, 7 points from the last 3. Obviously, the fact that they play Stuttgart as well is a favourable fixture. And for me, this is a game where, Bochum, if they can win this, they're not going to be going down, basically. They know 29 points, that'd be too big of a gap at this stage of the season, barring a late season collapse. For me, if they win this, they will be making it 3 years in a row in the Bundesliga. So, yeah, good player, good attacking midfielder who could potentially get you assists and a goal in this game. Then, the premium pick is one of the form players of the last couple of weeks in the Bundesliga, Christoph Baumgartner from Hoffenheim. Again, he's just been absolutely superb the last 2 weeks. Despite the fact that Hoffenheim have had a poor season, as you can see, he's already beaten his total points from last season, which is pretty incredible, really. So it proves that despite Hoffenheim's woes, he's not really been one of the main protagonists for their downfall. He's had a good season. He's a diminutive man on the pitch, but he can do just about everything in an attacking capacity. He can shoot, he gets goals, he gets assists, he can cross. He wins duels as well. Just an excellent player all around. And obviously the fact that they play Schalke at home is probably one of the main reasons why Runa has plumped for Baumgartner as his premium pick. Because, again, similar to Bochum, if Hoffenheim win this game, for me, they will be safe. Maybe not 100% safe, but I would say 80-85% safe for me after this little run they put together to go safe. But this is truly a huge game because they're obviously playing one of the few sides that are below them in the table. Basically, if they win this game, they'll go 7 points clear of Schalke. If they lose it, they'll only be 1 point clear. So that tells you just how big this game is. And, Baumgartner could be the man to guide Hoffenheim to victory here.
Yeah, absolutely. So any midfielder queries or questions, get them in just whilst we're covering them. But I mean, the way the fixtures are falling this weekend, they're obviously the top 4 are playing each other. So we've got a Bayern Freiburg repeat. We've got Union and Dortmund. But at the same time, we've got Hoffenheim, Schalke. We've got Stuttgart, obviously facing off Bochum. So basically, it's going to be, those big players for all those teams. Who's going to stand out more, basically, in those kind of big matchups? But Baumgartner, I think, is definitely a player that you want to be considering. Still low ownership, if I can get my words out. So yeah, absolutely, some key picks there. So don't think there are any midfielder questions at the moment in the live chat. But if you come up with any, please do pop them in, and we will come back. And so we'll move on to our strikers. Having said that, I've just seen something pop up. I'll just put that on screen before we come to strikers. Will Guerrero be rotated? He's playing full time. He played full time yesterday. Tricky one to call, really, because obviously Guerrero's been playing this midfield role, and obviously the likes of Bellingham and co were rested midweek, I think, Mark, weren't they, until they were brought on to try and change the game in Dortmund's favour. But I mean, he is probably a rotation risk, obviously, with the likes of Ryerson and Marius Wolf still holding on to those fullback positions. But, because of the results in those 2 games for Dortmund, maybe Terzic will turn to Guerrero being shifted back to left back. But even so, he's still going to be, a good player to have in your team. So as long as he's not rotated, I would keep in Guerrero, to be frankly honest. But what do you think, Mark? I mean, the way the Dortmund are playing, maybe be a good time to start to rotate out a couple of your Dortmund assets as well.
Yeah, to be honest, I think obviously we talked about him quite a bit on Tuesday, and we weren't impressed with his performance against Bayern. And to be honest, I was surprised to see him play against Leipzig, in truth. And he had another pretty torrid game. It's been 2 back-to-back really poor performances for Dortmund, and they've been basically battered in both of those games. Leipzig did a similar job on them to what Bayern did at the weekend, to be honest, in that game. It was just a dominant display. And yeah, I'm a bit worried for Dortmund again. They've obviously got Union Berlin as well, which is a different kind of game because, Union will probably sit back a lot more, but I'm not sure it's going to be the kind of game. Union are famous for that very, very wide, strong midfield, and it might be the game where Guerrero could end up getting lost if he plays midfield. I think it's possible he could start at left back, but I don't think he'll start in midfield again. I think, I wouldn't be putting him down, to be honest, for this game. I'm a little bit worried about Dortmund in general. And, this Union game is a massive, massive test for them all of a sudden that they need to win this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. We'll finish off with the strikers then. So, Mark, if you want to take us through Runa's free pick, starting with the budget pick.
Definitely, yeah. So the budget pick is Marcus Ingvartsen, one of the kind of, surprises of the season, really, for Mainz 05, worth only 5.1 million, and 0% of people have him in the team. And he's another one that, as you can see, his points last season only 70. He's already battered that with 8 games to go. He's got 106 points, and he's also got 10 goals this season too. And that's despite not starting every match. So, a player that's clearly on form. I think Onisivo is still injured, so I would expect him to start and play the full game, or at least the vast majority of it. Again, I do fancy Mainz to beat Werder this game. And, that we could see them get 2-3 goals very easily in this match. So, yeah, he's definitely a good shout, a player with no competition. Nobody's got him in the team. So, yeah, definitely a player that could be a surprise again this week. Yeah, your mid-price pick is, again, one of the on-form players of the last 2 weeks, Andrej Kramaric. We mentioned that he's not been very good. He's had his worst season in a Hoffenheim shirt by far, as far as I'm concerned, again, which is, again, reflected by his lack of points compared to last season. And bear in mind that he's got a lot of points the last 2 weeks, too. So I bet before the last 2 weeks, he was down on around about 80, 90 points for the season. So, yeah. But he is an on-form player. He's a quality player when he wants to be. He's also discounted from 14.7 million to 13.2. And again, that matchup against Schalke, which is definitely one of the matches of the week as far as I'm concerned. It's a huge game at the bottom in terms of the relegation fight. Obviously Schalke no longer unbeaten after being thrashed by Leverkusen last week. And Hoffenheim will fancy winning this game. And if they do that, then Kramaric will be one of the standout players. I'm pretty sure about that. Then, yeah, your premium pick is going to be Timo Werner. Another player he's had a bit of a strange season, really, overall, hasn't he? He was terrible against Mainz last weekend, but he was outstanding last night against Dortmund in the Cup.
Yep.
My only worry about him is will he start, because he has started the last 2 games. He is a player that's not known to be able to do every game, week in, week out. But I would imagine that Marco Rosa will want to start him again after such a good performance against Dortmund the other night. Again, I think the fact they're against the BSC of Hertha as well, it is a favourable matchup despite Leipzig's poor league form. Many people will expect them to fly back to form and win this game relatively comfortably in the Olympiastadion. Werner, when he's on his form, he can just rip people apart, and his finishing is outstanding, but you don't always know what you're going to get from him these days, Timo Werner. I still don't feel as though we've seen the best of him this season at times, but definitely a player that is capable of turning up and banging in 2-3 goals against Hertha.
Yeah, absolutely. And one comment in the chat, actually, which is a really good comment to take into account, is that you will know the Dortmund squad before the deadline, because obviously with there not being a Friday night game, all the 2:30 or 3:30 kickoffs in Germany, you'll know the squads beforehand, and therefore you'll be able to chop and change accordingly in that hour between. So yeah, in that sense, it might be a case of doing some last minute transfers, really. But obviously, having said that, try and be as organised as you can be for some of these more obvious picks. So I think there's one other question in regards to strikers. So if you've got any forward striker questions, pop them in the chat just as we're kind of finishing or coming to the end of the show. One striker question that was asked earlier on was, who is better to sell, Kolo Muani or Füllkrug? I mean, for me, I'd probably say, despite the fact that he's top goal scorer, I'd probably inferring to get rid of Fulkrug over Kolomoani. Kolomoani's form is just sensational. He's such an all-round striker. He's been involved in more goals than any one striker. When you take his assists into account, does things himself, and he's just a great all-round striker. So at the moment, I would say Colin Moani to the Fulkrug, obviously with Werder kind of slightly dipping a little bit and have a tough matchup against Mainz. But Mark, would you keep Colin Moani as well, or would you maybe keep Fulkrug, who's having such a majestic season in the Bundesliga?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be affordable to keep both of them in your team, to be honest with you. I think Fulkrug wasn't tipped to have such a good season, and neither was Muani as well. So I think both of them are relatively cheap, as far as I know. I think, there could be sense keeping both. And I mean, I've had Fulkrug in for most of the season. And again, like most Werder players, he's dropped off the last 5-6 games. He's gone from being getting almost a goal a game to really struggling to get more than 4 or 5 points a match, in truth. So it would definitely be Fulkrug. If I was going to sell one of the two, it would be Fulkrug, in truth. He's not been very good in recent weeks. As you can see, his overall points tally is amazing, one of the best in the league. But he's actually in 64% of teams, so probably because he's only valued 9.6 million, which is very, very cheap for a top striker. He hasn't been on good form, but just because of his price, he's probably worth keeping in the team. I think I'll probably keep him in my team this week, but I don't know. I'm just not expecting much from Werder at the moment. They probably are due a good performance, but I just don't see it coming this weekend against Mainz. I really fancy a Mainz home win there.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's us for fantasy football wise. We're just going to spend literally the next 3 minutes blitzing through some quick match week 27 predictions ahead of the weekend. So if you've got any questions fantasy related whilst we're doing it, pop them in the chat for the next 3-4 minutes and we will quickly come to them as well. So just going to fire these across. So no Friday night games. So starting with Mainz, Werder, Mark, I'm going 3-1 to the home side. What are you feeling?
I was thinking the same, to be honest. Yeah, 3-1. I just should be very easy this for Mainz, which probably means it's going to be 3-0 to Werder. But no, 3-1 Mainz for me here.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting matchup here with the on-form Leverkusen hosting, obviously, a Frankfurt side who have got Colin Moani and co in their ranks. I might say on the fence with this one and say like a high-scoring draw, so I'll go 2-2 in this case.
Yeah, I think obviously Frankfurt were a lot better this week against Union, weren't they? But their away form is poor, so I still think Leverkusen, the Leverkusen train is going to keep on rolling. I'm going to go for a 2-1 home win there.
Very good. First of the big, matchups in the top four. So Borussia Dortmund hosting Union Berlin. Two teams in stark contrast in terms of recent form, at least. Although obviously Union dropped off midweek. But I don't know. Kind of fancy Dortmund to just sneak this one. They certainly need to in regards to the title race. So I'll have to say 2-1, but it will be close, and Union will frustrate the home side 100%.
Yeah, I think if this one was at Union, I'd be a lot more worried for Dortmund. But I think Union, since the Rückrunde, they've not travelled as well. That's my fear. At home, they're still absolutely solid as houses. They win pretty much every game at home. But away from home, I feel as though they've struggled to score enough goals away, especially since Christmas. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 home win here. But I agree, it won't be an easy 2-0. It might take them, 60, 70 minutes to get the first goal. I think it could be one of those games.
Yeah, 100%. After that, Augsburg hosting FC Cologne. Obviously, hapless, kind of very blunt away side at the moment. So one imagines it would be a fairly tight game, but Augsburg do their typical 1-0 job. So I'll just go simply with 1-0.
Yeah, I think that's the favourite score, to be honest. Yeah, Augsburg very strong at home. They love that 1-0 scoreline at home, don't they? And it's hard to look beyond it again. Köln just can't even create chances, let alone score goals. And for me, Augsburg will get another home win here. But I'm going to go for 2-0 just because I think Augsburg are due to score a few goals at home.
Yeah, well, maybe if Berisha's on form again, coming off the back of his international selection, then yeah, definitely a chance of that. The repeat of the Pokal quarterfinal, Freiburg this time hosting Bayern Munich. Obviously, Bayern will be out for revenge. Freiburg at home, though, really difficult one. I might. Again, it will be back to the Wolves job for Freiburg, but I think they can still do a job. I'll go 1-1 on this one.
Yeah, I think it's very, very hard because it depends on how seriously Freiburg take this game. I mean, obviously they're still going for a top four, but if they really, really believe that they can stop Bayern again, I think they could do and get a draw or even a win, because I'm still not 100% convinced by Bayern at times, especially this is the kind of game they struggle in as well, against hard-working sides with a little bit of pace like Freiburg. But I still think Bayern, they simply have to win this game. Going into Man City as well, if they lose or even draw this, then Munich is going to be set on fire, I think, to be honest. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 away win.
Very good. Saturday evening kickoff, Hertha hosting Leipzig, and no doubt Hertha's home form is significantly better than their travels, which is not a hard feat to do. But Leipzig, I mean, you also kind of cursed tipping Leipzig to win because they've been so poor in the league of late, but that Pokal performance gives you a bit more confidence, so I'll say a 2-1 away win.
Yeah, this is a hard one to tip because Hertha have been pretty good at home in recent weeks. But yeah, Leipzig should win this. I mean, they're pretty much better man for man at the end of the day. But you don't know, again, it's motivation. You can still see that when Leipzig have motivation, that they're still a brilliant side like they showed last night. But just in recent weeks in the league, I don't know what's wrong with them. But surely they've got to put a performance in this time. So I'm going to go for a 3-1 away win.
Very good. On to Sunday. Gladbach hosting Wolfsburg, who still have ambitions for European football. So kind of strikes me as one of those games that could be a bit of a boring game, if I'm being frankly honest. So I'll go 1-1 with this one.
Yeah, I think Gladbach, they are pretty much the two most mid-table teams in the league. Like it's 10th versus 9th at the end of the day. That is like the depth. But obviously Wolfsburg have much the better season because they're still in with a chance of Europe. But yeah, I agree. It's not a game that I'm going to be getting overly excited about this. Because again, I think along with Werder, I think Gladbach are pretty much on the beach at the moment, if I'm being honest with you. And I think I'm actually going to go for a 0-0 here. I just don't think it's going to be I don't usually tip 0-0s in the Bundesliga, but this isn't going to be a good game, I'm afraid, guys.
Yeah, relegation Sunday. So starting the kind of back-to-back big matches with Bochum hosting VfB Stuttgart. Really, really tough to call. Bochum's home form is just so scary in terms of being a VfB man. So obviously the best with new manager bounce, I'll just go for a 2-1 away win just because I want it to happen, not based on anything.
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't share your optimism there. I just think Bochum, the way they've actually, for me, these last three performances have been their best period of form of the whole season. I thought they were brilliant last week against Frankfurt. And again, they know they've got that carrot to know that if they win this, they're like 90% safe. And I think they will get the win. I think it'll be relatively comfortable as well. I'm going to go for a 2-0 home win here.
Yeah, very good. Hard to disagree, to be fair. And then finishing off the weekend, another big game, 6-pointer, Hoffenheim hosting Schalke. Just the way the things have been going, this is quite harsh considering Schalke have only just recently lost and, unbeaten in the Rückrunde itself until obviously the recent Leverkusen loss. But back-to-back wins for Hoffenheim, key players starting to look like their old selves. I'll have to say 2-0 Hoffenheim.
Yeah, again, and I should be thinking this is closer, but I just feel as though what we've seen in the last 2 weeks, we've seen more of the old Hoffenheim. They're creating chances again. And until the last 15 minutes, I thought they were really, really good against Werder. It was probably their best performance of the season until the last 15 minutes. But I still think they'll comfortably beat Schalke here. I'm sorry, Schalke fans, but I just think, all that hard work is starting to look like it still might go down, unfortunately. And I think, I'm going to go for a 3-1 home win with a couple from Kramaric in this game.
Yeah, very good. So, that's it. So just very quickly, we will be doing our review show on Monday. Monday come in. this week instead of Tuesday, just because of schedules. So make sure you keep your eye out for that for the review show on Monday. Also, just to let you know, a little teaser: me and Mark have just recently recorded our 7th episode of Bundesliga show, the Derby Day Dive-In series. So that will be coming out probably this weekend. We'll keep you posted if it changes at all. So really thrilled to have got one of those in the bag again. So we look forward to seeing your reaction to that. Doesn't look like there's been any more fantasy questions for now. Absolutely fine. Pop them in the comments. If not subsequently, Runa can get to them. So over to you, Mark, to close up tonight's show.
Yeah, definitely. So if you enjoyed what you saw today, don't forget to check out our Twitter feed, which is Over the Bar FB and at Over the Bar Extra. Also, don't forget to check out our mainstay, our main piece, otbfootball.net. And also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We're closing in on 1,000. You know, the goal is to get to that 1,000 by the end of the season. We're getting very close. So yeah, keep telling your friends about us, and yeah, subscribe yourself, and of course, like and comment too. So yeah, thank you very much, and we'll see you again on Monday evening. See you then, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers all.